Hi, I'm Clay Daniel with an LSAT necessary assumption video explainer for you. We're going to look at test 73, which is available for free on LawHub. It's one of the free tests available. You don't have to upgrade to get it. We're going to look at section 2, number 8. And because of LSAC's copyright, I'm not going to read out the prompt, the question, the answer. So you might want to pause the video at this point and access that video on LawHub. Test 73, section 2, number 8. So we know we have a necessary assumption question because not only is the word assuming present in the question, but it also the word requires, pointing to a necessary assumption, that is something that is an unstated premise in the argument. An assumption must be both unstated and serve as a premise supporting the overall conclusion, and also something that is actually necessary to the argument. That is to say, imagine you go into the argument kind of like a Jenga structure. If you ever played the game Jenga, and you pull out a block and everything comes crashing down, if you pull out that necessary assumption, the argument will fall apart. This is often called the negation test. You can use it with the answers in ways that I'll talk about in a moment. But as you look over the argument, as is always true with an argument, you want to have laser focus on the conclusion. I like to call that kind of the center of the bullseye, and then build your understanding of the argument around that. We have a keywords at the end in the last sentence, the way the last sentence is introduced, that shows that the last sentence is the conclusion, and it takes the evidence about the box jellyfish and makes a claim regarding the animal's needs, that the way it has adapted has to do with the needs of the animal. Now that becomes a very important element. And one thing you can tell is if you see something mentioned only once in an argument, I like to call it a loose end. It's mentioned in the conclusion specifically, but not mentioned anywhere else. It's basically a loose end that needs to be tied together into the rest of the argument. It mentions the animal's needs in the conclusion, but not anywhere else. So whatever details it says in that all-important second sentence, the details about the box jellyfish's retinas, must be tied more explicitly for the argument to really work. Must be tied to the idea of needs for the argument to really work. The advantage of identifying something mentioned only once, this kind of loose end, is that it really narrows down your focus on the answers, your approach when you go to the answers. They're not all created equal. In fact, we're looking for answers that mention the animal's needs, and in fact, there's only one in this case. So let's look more closely at answer B, because that one is claiming or is suggesting an unstated premise that can tie together the idea of the animal's need to this reality about its eyes. One way we can be sure that we have what we want in that answer B is to apply this negation test, to say, well, what if answer B was not true? What if the opposite of it was true? Would that undercut the argument completely? What if box jellyfish don't have any need to detect these prominent features but not find details, which is exactly what the evidence is talking about? Well, if that's the case, then the entire argument that explains the reality with reference to the animal's needs is now in shambles, lying on the ground. That's how the negation test works. It helps us look at a choice that we think may be the right answer and confirm that it is. If you were entertaining one of the other choices here and wanted to compare it with choice B, that would be a great way to confirm choice B over against that other choice. I'm not going to go through all the other choices in detail, but I will mention that on necessary assumption, you generally want to look for what I call a modest answer, something that doesn't have wording too extreme or too specific. I would tend to be very cautious about something like answer A, with the word only especially, or answer E, the word main, it's the main means. These are the kinds of words and language that should raise a giant red flag for you on necessary assumption. We don't want to overstate what the author's necessary assumption is, so more modest, qualified language is better. So you can take the tools that I've given in this video and apply them to all necessary assumption questions. Anything that says assuming plus required, or an assumption that the argument depends on. Give it a shot and let us know if we can help you along the way.